name is Mr. Wilcox. This is Genesee High School, Algebra 2B. We're going to talk about complex numbers today. The first thing that I want to do is give you two quick definitions, okay? And the first definition is this: a complex number. A complex number. This goes on your first line on your note sheet. What I'm going to do is say A plus BI. A plus BI. And this is bringing us to the second definition, which is really two parts. I'm going to say this. A is a real number, like 5 or 12 or -4 or even 0. And the BI is what we've talked about before. This is an imaginary number. An imaginary number like the square root of -9, which is 3i. Or the square root of -100, which is 10i. And so on. And that brings us to the first part. And the homework tonight asks you to identify the real part and the imaginary part. So number one, I'm just following down on the first part of the note sheet here. 3 plus 9i. What part of this is real?
3.
3. So here I can just put an arrow and write real. Okay? And the 9i together is imaginary, so I can just write IM for imaginary. We can write imag. IMAG, whatever you want. Okay? And that's it. You just identify. That's the easy part here. Number 2. Let's say the square root of -4 plus 7. What part of this is real?
7.
7. So here I can put real. What is the square root of -4?
2i.
2i is correct. So if I wrote this as 2i, this is going to be my imaginary part. And finally, my last one, a little bit more tricky. Pi plus root 10. Pi plus root 10. Question: is pi real?
Yes.
I think it's a real number. It's 3.14, right? Is the square root of 10 real?
No.
I think it's irrational, but I think it is a real number. You can type that in your calculator, right?
Yeah.
And since I can type it in my calculator, that would be a real number. Do I have anything imaginary here?
No.
I don't have a square root of a negative, and I don't have an I. So this whole number right here is real. And at the end, technically, I could put 0i. This would be my imaginary part. Okay?
Okay.
My next part here is going to be this. Something called the conjugate. Something called the conjugate. And all I want you to do is this. Change the middle sign only. Alright? For the following, identify the conjugate, then multiply the conjugates together. So here I'll say, don't write this down, just watch. If I give you A plus BI, what would the conjugate be? Change the middle sign. A minus BI. Fair enough? So let's look at number 4. If I give you this in parentheses, 2 plus 3i, what would the conjugate be?
2 minus 3i.
2 minus 3i is correct. So let's FOIL these together, and I want to show you what happens. By the way, I think we can skip number 6 here. I just want to do a 4 and a 5, okay? So here's two conjugates, 2 plus 3i and 2 minus 3i. We can FOIL these together. First times first is 4.
Yep.
What you might notice here is this. Outer is -6i. Inner is +6i. So wouldn't those be eliminated? I think they would. What is last times last? 3i times -3i is -9i squared. Isn't I times I squared? What did you learn last week about I squared?
Negative
Cancel it.
Cross it out, change a sign, right? So let's cross this out, change a sign. What is the final answer going to be? 4 plus 9 is 13. So that's it. That's all we have to do to multiply conjugates. And this is important because, look, 13 is real. There is no imaginary number here, so it's just a real. The imaginary is eliminated. Let's try it again, number 5. 7 minus 5i.
7 plus
What's the conjugate, Greenfield?
7 plus 5.
7 plus 5i. So we can write this as 7 plus 5i. Notice, every time you have conjugates, the outer and the inner will cancel, won't they? Look, outer is 35i. Inner is negative 35i. Those are gone. So when you have conjugates, you just have to worry about the first and the last. Let's see. First times first is 49.
Yep.
Wait, so we don't FOIL it?
Well, you do. That's what we're doing. First times first. Okay? But Collins, look. Outer is 35. Inner is negative 35. Those are canceled. Last times last is negative 5 times 5, which is negative 25. And then I times I is I squared. What happens to negative 25i squared?
I turned to a calculator.
Cross it out. Change it. So now it's 49 plus 25, which is what? 74. There's my final answer. Okay? Now we get to the real examples. We have 9 of them. They will go fast.
There's 6.
Isn't there a third row? 7, 8, 9? Oh, I'm talking about the second part. Simplify the following complex numbers. Okay? This one is add. We'll do 2 of them with add. This is like terms. Okay, here's what we're going to do. 6 minus 5i. There's a complex number. And let's add to it 3 plus 6i. 3 plus 6i. Notice, I have a plus in the middle.
Add.
We're adding. What is my real part going to be?
9 minus 11i squared.
Yes, what's the real part of what you just said?
9.
The real part is 6. The real part is 3. Add them together is 9. Mr. Bright, be careful. Negative 5i plus 6i is just 1. So it's 9 plus I. Let's try it again. Example 2. Add.
So is that going to be 9i?
No. No, because it's 9 plus I. It would be like 9 plus x. Right? And 9 plus x is not 9x, is it? Alright, let's try this again. 1 minus 2i plus negative 1 plus 5i. 1 minus 2i plus negative 1 plus 5i. What happens to my real parts? Look at, my real part is negative 1. My real part is 1. Real part is negative 1. What happens? Those are gone. That's okay. Negative 2i plus 5i is the final answer of 3i. Fair enough? Cardinal, what's the timer on that thing so far?
8:15, sir.
8:15. Let's keep going. Number 3. 2 minus I minus 7 minus 2i. I put a very big minus sign there, because the minus must be distributed. You see how there's a minus here? Let's change it to a plus and then change the sign of everything in the second complex number.
Why?
Because the negative has to be distributed to everything. So my 7 became a negative 7. And my 2i became a positive 2i. And my middle sign changed to plus. Now, this is real. This is real. Put those together, you got negative 5. Alright? This is complex. Let me put a square around it. This is complex. Add those together and get what?
I squared.
Negative I plus
3.
2i is a positive 1i. Okay? Let's move on to example 4. Look at this hanging on by a thread.
Don't erase that.
Why's that?
Never mind.
We already got it, didn't we?
Well, I was gonna zoom in on.
X4. How about this? 2 times 5 plus 4i. Can I multiply things together? Yes, I can. What is this called? Distributive property is correct. Let's distribute. Well, I'm sorry? 10 plus 8 i's, right? Yeah. 2 plus 5 is 10. 2 times 4i is 8i. And you're done. That's it. Let's try example 5. 3i times 12 minus 2i. Be very careful with this. Can we still distribute again?
No, yeah.
Yeah, we can. Ahern, you ready? Yeah. 3i times 12. 36i. Okay, watch this. 3i times negative 2i.
Negative 6i squared.
Negative 6i squared. And Ahern, what is negative 6i squared?
Negative, or 6i.
Cross it out. Change the sign. So isn't it just a plus 6?
Yeah.
Okay. And now technically, I'm going to be technical about this. I'm not going to mark you down. Okay. Technically, I put my real part first. 6 plus 36i. You just want to switch it around real quick. No big deal. Okay. Let's try this. Example 6. 3 plus 2i times 1 plus 5i. What do we do on the cool down today?
Foil.
Foil, right? Does this scream to you foil?
Yeah.
It does me. Because you know what? I got two complex numbers multiplied together. Here, I just had an add back in example as a plus. You just add your like terms, right? Here, I had a subtract over here. I changed it to a plus. You just add your like terms. But here, I have a multiply. So let's foil. First times first is 3. What's outer? Look at outer. 3 times 5i. Isn't that 15i? What's inner? What's inner going to be?
2i.
2i times 1 is just 2i. And then last times last. Be very careful. 2i times 5i is 10i squared.
No, you don't cross out I squared?
We're going to right now. Lemon, what is 10i squared?
10.
Cross it out, change the sign is negative 10, right? Now, one last step to do. What is the real part? 3 minus 10 is a negative 7. What is my imaginary part?
17i.
17i is correct. 15i plus 2i is 17i. Okay? I think we can just do example 7 and call this a
When
lesson.
you put the minus 10 down there?
Because this minus 10 combined with the 3. This
Oh.
is 3 minus 10, which gave me that negative 7.
Gotcha.
Fair enough? Alright. Last problem, I think we can stop here. What is the time we're at now?
12:55.
Alright, 2 minutes to do this. 6 minus I times
Low battery.
7 minus 2i. Let's foil. Sorry. Let's foil. First times first. 6 times 7 is 42. Okay. Outer, 6 times negative 2i is negative 12i. Okay. Inside, negative I times 7 is negative 7i. And last times last, be careful with this part. This is the trickiest part of all of it. Negative I times negative 2i is a positive 2i squared. Right? What is positive 2i squared? Negative 2. I crossed it out and I changed the sign. What is my real part of this? My real part is 42 minus 2, and that makes 40. And my imaginary part is negative 12 and negative 7i, which is negative 19i. That's a funny problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. We're all set, Cardinal. Thanks for watching. See you next time.